Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm William Garcia. I'm chair of the Crosse County Democratic Party, and we're having a press conference today to talk about Stacey Klein, the Republican opponent to Senator Brad Pfaff in the 32nd Senate District. The Republican playbook recently, all over the state, has largely been about bringing in competitors from other places. Tim Michels was brought in 2 years ago from Connecticut to run for governor of Wisconsin. Now, Eric Hovde has been brought in from California to run for Senate against Tammy Baldwin. Following that same playbook, the Republican Party has brought in Stacey Klein to run for the 32nd Senate District. Originally, she was running for Wisconsin Federal Senate. She was going to go up against Tammy Baldwin. However, as the party coalesced around Eric Hovde, the party came to her and said, here are some other options for things you could run for. And they said, you know what? You live close to the 32nd District. Why don't you run for that? And that's exactly what happened. Here at the La Crosse County Democratic Party, we are upset that someone that does not live in the district lines has decided that they have what it takes to run for this seat, especially going up against Senator Brad Pfaff, a person who has spent his entire life living in this area, working in this area, and working on behalf of the people in the 32nd District. So, today I am joined by community members who are upset not only at Stacey Klein's living outside of the district, but also her far-right viewpoints that put her completely out of step with the people of the 32nd Senate District. So, to begin with, I would like to introduce educator Chad Dull.
Thank you, William. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. My name is Chad Dull. I'm a lifelong resident of Western Wisconsin and a lifelong educator from a family of educators. I hope that we all understand that our kids, the youth of our state, deserve a world-class education in fully funded schools. Unfortunately, my experience over a lifetime, and especially in recent years, is seeing that that's just not true. We have heroic individuals working in our schools, but what they're experiencing is a decade of underfunding and really divestment from our schools, led by Republicans in Wisconsin. It just doesn't make any sense. It's not good for kids, it's not good for families, it's not good for our communities. If you think about it, we're having to go and ask our communities to support us more and more on a regular basis. This spring, over 100 districts, including right here in Western Wisconsin at Sparta and Westby, had to go and ask their communities for money, not to do something new and exciting, but just to operate, right? Just to do what we're already doing. That's not sustainable. That's not what's good for kids. This neglect by Republicans of our educational system can't continue. Public education is really a bedrock, right? It's something that makes our state special, right? I've lived here my whole life. I'm a public school graduate. My kids are public school graduates. It matters. It changes things. It makes the whole Wisconsin idea work. Instead, we have Republicans in our state legislature who treat teachers like they're the enemy, who worry about social constructs that don't matter, who worry about, instead of the kind of bread and butter issues that change things, that help us support the future, right? I'm 53 years old. What we're doing for these young people is going to matter to me for the rest of my life. When we think about Stacey Klein, it gets even more insidious, right? Not only does she share these viewpoints, she spends time demonizing teachers, talking about indoctrination, and just frankly, silliness, right? We don't have time for silliness. We need to be here for our kids. I was staggered to learn, right? I'm a parent of 2 young adults, right, who came through public schooling, finishing it in a pandemic. I see young people every day struggling with mental health issues. Stacey Klein says they're talking about it because it's trendy. That's egregious, right? That's awful. We need someone in the state Senate who believes in schools, who believes in our kids, who sticks up for them, who fights for them, who doesn't demonize them, who doesn't call them names, who doesn't make the people who dedicated their lives to education the enemy. Right? If there's one thing we should all coalesce around, right, it's being in the right place, the best place for kids. That guy's Brad Paff in the 32nd Senate District, right? His roots are here. He believes in what we do. He believes in education, and he wants our future to be strong. I'm supporting Brad Paff. I have no interest in Stacey Klein, and I hope you'll support Brad too.
Thank you, Chad Dull. Next, we will hear from Emily Anderson, UWL student and County Board Supervisor for the County of La Crosse.
Hello. I also am the chair of UWL College Democrats, and we are all very scared for this next election with everything on with the stakes. Next Monday is the 2-year anniversary of the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe v. Wade. This decision rolled back a constitutional right for the first time in history and left reproductive health care under threat in Wisconsin. An 1800s era ban went into effect, jeopardizing women across the state. While the judicial ruling last year restored access to reproductive freedom in Wisconsin, legislative Republicans have ramped up their attacks on women's health. They've attempted to roll back the newly restored access, denied the right to contraception, and refused to expand Medicaid coverage for postpartum women. Stacey Klein has publicly opposed abortion, calling it murder. Republicans in Madison are dead set on stripping us of our reproductive freedom, and there's no doubt that Stacey will stand side by side with them in their effort. And they won't stop at abortion. We've seen across the country contraceptives and procedures like IVF are under threat too. Legislative Republicans want Madison to decide what is best for women's health care and not medical providers. The anniversary of the Dobbs decision reminds us of what is at stake this November. We must elect a state senator who will fight for reproductive health care, and that is Brad Paff. Thank you.
Recently, the Wisconsin Legislative Bureau named Brad Paff the most nonpartisan senator in the Wisconsin Senate. More than anyone else, Senator Paff from the 32nd District is reaching across the aisle and doing what needs to be done to help all Wisconsinites. With that in mind, it is infuriating that the GOP Wisconsinites reached outside of our district and pulled in not someone with common sense solutions, not someone who's working to get things done, but instead a far, far right extremist culture warrior. Someone who is consistently anti-LGBTQ rights, anti-vaccination, anti-masking, and as we've heard, anti-reproductive choice, anti-schools. With all of this in mind, I hope you will join us in supporting Senator Brad Paff for the 32nd Senate District. Thank you and goodbye.